Welcome to Please Me, the award-winning sexuality podcast bringing you bold conversations and big clit energy. I'm thrilled to announce that Please Me is the #1 ranked sexuality podcast in the USA and worldwide. I'm Eve, your host, on a journey from trauma to sexual liberation. Join me and my guests as we dive into conversations around orgasm equality, self-love, body positivity, and essential sex education. Let's reclaim pleasure and close the orgasm gap, one empowering conversation at a time. Last episode, I sat down with Dr. Amy Clark, a leading sex therapist, and her partner, Roy Clark, as they shared the tools that help them navigate tough conversations and elevate their intimacy. They also introduced Araya, a luxury lubricant with the sensual connection card to deepen pleasure and strengthen your bond. Go back and listen to catch all the insights. Today, I bring to you Mistress Audry, whom I met at DomCon, as she shares her insights on ritualistic practices in the kink world. This episode is a true deep dive into BDSM, power dynamics, and intimacy, an eye-opening conversation you won't want to miss. Learn about kink rituals, relationship exploration, and erotic connection as I did. Huge thanks to everyone who's rated, reviewed, and shared Please Me. Because of you, we're now the #1 sexuality podcast in the world. Your support amplifies vital conversations about pleasure, healing, and sexual empowerment. Keep the momentum going, leave a review, share your favorite episode, and help us reach even more listeners. This week, I'm shouting out 5 amazing countries where Please Me hit #1: Argentina, Serbia, Jamaica, Bulgaria, and Japan. Thank you for tuning in and turning up the volume on pleasure. I'm also raising funds for survivors of the recent catastrophic typhoon in the Philippines. Please check the show notes for the donation link. Any support you can give is truly appreciated. Want to ask me a question for the Please Me podcast? Join the conversation on Patreon or subscribe to my Substack newsletter for exclusive content, behind-the-scenes updates, and the chance to have your questions featured on the show. Patreon now houses the entire episodes of the Kink Series, including this one, along with exclusive guest photo shoots and a sexy New Orleans photo set I created while connecting with incredible kink-positive women. Step into the community for even more intimacy, education, and erotically empowered storytelling. Please Me is for mature audiences, so sit back, relax, and surrender to the pleasure of Please Me.
A lot of my sadism, especially in scene work, where I am flogging somebody or paddling, spanking. I do something called body art, in which I use various impact tools, as well as these kind of like metal claws and a lot of like texture and sensation tools to mark the flesh for the purposes of making a picture.
Hello and welcome to Please Me, the podcast that aims to destigmatize conversations about sex and sexual health by turning the sheets into our classroom. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Mistress Audry Lu Black to the show. I met her at DomCon, and this is my Friday Kink Series now, and she has a podcast called Place Marker for Perversion Podcast. And she taught a class. She taught a couple classes, actually, during DomCon. One of them was called Beyond Ritual. And I thought that was such a fascinating topic. And somehow, on my way to your class, I ended up in a different class.
Somebody's like that. There's just so many classes going on.
There were so many. And I literally thought I was in your class, and I sat down and it was about something else. And I was like, oh, I'm in the wrong place, but I'm already here. So it would be rude to leave. So I missed your class, and I'm so sad because I really, really am so interested in bringing ritual into the bedroom and spirituality. I think it's such a fascinating topic. So with that being said, I want to welcome you to the show because I can go on and on. Welcome to Please Me. How are you today, Mistress Audry? Do we go by Mistress Audry or Mistress Audry Lu Black?
So you can call me Mistress Audry.
Okay.
When I'm in a relationship with clients, they tend to call me Mistress Lu. But there are a number of those out there. And in general conversation, I tend to go by Audry. one of the reasons though that I think it is important to note the title and to have it in kind of the show notes and everything isn't just because I'm trying to like blow my own horn or get attention. It's because BDSM is one of those interesting spaces. We don't have regulatory boards, right? Nobody
That's
has
true.
their MFA in kink. Well, you could, but probably not in practicing kink. Um, so when you're speaking from a position of authority, you have to be really careful about the information you're giving out. It's not just what you personally want, or if it is what you personally want, you clarify between that and what you're speaking as an expert on. And so when I put mistress in my title for a podcast or to teach a class, it's because I'm saying, hey, I know this stuff. I promise I know this stuff. And I promise that I'm going to treat you with the respect it takes to like teach you new things.
Yes,
So
absolutely. And I'm so excited to learn from you today because I did miss your class, and I really was fascinated by that topic.
mhm.
Because I'm definitely like drawn to things like tantra, which also I want to explore. I have not really done too much exploring in the tantra realm, but that is really a spiritual practice that connects you with your body and your sexuality and helps you to get to like higher levels of consciousness, right? And so, how do you incorporate ritual into your kink play?
So it's kind of interesting because when we talk about ritual, when we talk about spiritual sexuality, there's a couple of different angles to take it from. And so there are some people who can speak very, very well on incorporating their personal religion into their erotic play. Um,
Okay.
it helps magnify their connection with their partner in the same way that, you know, people like to scream, oh God. Sometimes you want to scream, oh God, or you want to have it kind of a much more involved process. Or like you talked about with Tantra, where it's very much about being in your body in that intimate sexual scene, right? Even if you're privately alone, you're still very much in your body. What I teach is a little bit different. I teach it from the POV of a specific kink called goddess worship.
Okay.
And I teach it for the perspective of what are called FLRs. So that's female led relationships, or I prefer the frame femme led relationships, in which my femininity is very much part of how and why I choose to lead. And goddess worship is takes a lot of the um, feel and the intensity of worship and expands it into body worship, devotionals, and like we said, rituals. And so a lot of what I'm teaching people who are interested in that kind of dynamic is how to take the normal parts of dating. Don't forget them as you're getting very excited about building your kink relationship. Remember to build your actual relationship. It's not just intensity, it's intimacy as well. That's how long term relationships build. And to be mindful of those rituals that we perform all the time. So, one of the rituals I like to point out to people that they tend to do in dating is the payment ritual. Who pays for the date? And if you're
Mhm.
challenging the norm on that, that's fine too. You're renegotiating the contract, but that is a ritual. Opening the door is a ritual. Being the first to call is a ritual. These are all just codified things that we do in society. And so what I teach people to do is take all of those and a number of other things like house service and memorizing somebody's favorite colors and smells in order to create an environment for them, all of those things, and just be very mindful of the way you're doing them so that energy is going into your relationship instead of being a drain on it.
Yes. And I was thinking about like the ritual of me getting ready for the podcast as
Mhm.
I as I was sort of getting ready to meet with you today. And I do something that I think is kind of weird because nobody will ever know it. However, I always like, try and look nice and I put makeup on. Part of my ritual is like putting makeup on because it's a video
Mhm.
podcast. Normally, I wear zero makeup on a daily basis. And actually, on Monday, I recorded a couple shows. And when my boyfriend got home, he's like, I see you have your clown makeup on again. Because I put a lot of makeup on for the show because I have a lot of lights. And so it's a lot to see when the lights aren't shining. It's like very bright. And so I was like, hey, that's not very nice, but but bottom line is he likes me with zero makeup on, which is fine. I like myself with makeup and no makeup, but for the most part, I don't wear any. But that's part of my ritual. And then another part of my ritual that nobody can see is that I always put perfume on. Every single time. It's like part of my like stepping into my persona as a podcast host. And so like little things like that maybe people don't necessarily view as ritual, but they are because you are doing them every time. Are the people that are coming to see you for goddess worship, are they wanting like the same sorts of activities each time? And give me like an idea of maybe like the top 3 activities that you get requested for.
So most of my clientele, 99% of it, are long-term relationships. I specialize in consensual behavioral modification. So goddess worship is kind of just always a dynamic in our play. It's part of how I control things. But if you're talking about scene work, which also happens, goddess worship kind of started as a broadening out of body worship or partialism. So partialism is what we think about when we think about most people's body fetishes. Like I just have a fetish for huge breasts, or I have a foot fetish. That's called a partialism.
I didn't know that. Okay, that's a new word to add to my kink vocabulary.
I will tell you
Partialism.
that's more of a psychological background than a kink background. In kink, we tend to use fetish pretty interchangeably with a lot of other things. But that kind of explicit worship tending to start with a part of the body that is not traditionally erotic. You're not diving for the clit, right? You're getting very invested in the ears. When you expand that out into overall body worship, I often have people start from the feet up just because that dynamic works well with the energy and the tone that we're aiming for. But body worship doesn't have to be done in a goddess worship setting. You can tie somebody up and worship their body for hours and make them take it, which is also incredibly difficult. That's not quite the same as goddess worship. Goddess worship also has the power dynamic in it, in which the goddess is placed above, and it's the energy of the worshiper that really reinforces that. So the top 3 things in a scene, definitely position makes a big difference. They're going to be at my feet. They're going to be underneath my knee, basically, to start off with. The level of reverence they show is how much they kind of get access to often. And I will have people come in and strip. I like a lot of my goddess worship to be on the neuter side. I tend to also like to have the cock, if there is a cock involved, to be caged. It is not about their sexuality, it's about their submission and their reverence towards me. I am often fully dressed for most of this because it is not about how much I'm giving to them. It is just that I exist.
Okay, this is like really setting some sparks off in my brain. Like I'm like, this is super interesting, someone
Yeah.
coming down and like being on the ground and kissing my feet. What's really interesting is I was listening to a physical therapy continuing education course this week, and it was about interviewing for sexual health conditions. And they showed, I don't know if you're familiar with what the homunculus is. It's the part of the brain where, it's like you can see like the different parts of the body and where they show up and like how much of them is like sensory. So like the hands are like bigger because they're very sensitive, and the feet too. And what was super interesting that I had never really paid attention to is that right next to the genitals, like literally right next door to it, the next thing over, were the feet. And so you wonder, like, why is are foot fetishes like one of the most searched for things online, you
Oh,
know,
I
in
have so much
terms,
information about that.
yes, is in terms of kink. And I was
Yeah.
like, look at that. The feet are right next to the genitals. That is so interesting. And she was talking about how if you have pain with sex, oftentimes you'll have pain with cutting your toenails. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like I never put it together in that way. Go ahead. I'm going to let you speak now because I just thought this was fascinating.
No,
I'm
I mean,
like,
I think the first part of that is also incredibly important. Our hands and our feet receive so much information. And I'm not even just talking about sexually. I'm talking about why we don't
right.
walk barefoot. Like we do a lot to protect our feet from the world because they are incredibly sensitive. And our brain has a difficult time shutting off stimulation from them because our brain has decided that stimulation from your feet and your hands is incredibly important information for you to have for survival. So when you're playing with somebody and you can incorporate touch and feet, it tends to be one of those things that they're not as prepared for. So the brain doesn't shut it off. So that can be a great asset when you're working on stimulating somebody enough to overwhelm their senses, to kind of just like place them in a hypersexual state, in a hyper submissive or sub state. Some people go into subspace just from having their feet played with. Um, on the other side of that, people who are very into playing with other people's feet. You do get some people who are, sensory based and they're just doing it because it is a fun, unusual way of triggering the sensors in your body. You get people who are definitely doing it because they are playing with the taboo. I person center taboos. Instead of looking at them from society down, I look at them from the person out. What are you doing? So some people are doing it because they're playing with the taboo of the gross. We have a lot of association with feet and touching the ground and being nasty and gross and filthy. And so they're playing with that and they can expand that out to other kind of gross play. And then you have some people who are doing it more for a status based thing because feet also have a lot in our society to do with class and status. So literally being underneath somebody's feet is a massive power dynamic. And you have people who play with all of those interchangeably. They're just doing it. So I think it's interesting when somebody comes and goes, I have this fetish. My next question is, what do you feel when you fantasize about this? What part of your brain, what part of your body is getting triggered by this? Because it's not just enough for me to know what your fetish is. I want to expand on it. I want to play with it in new ways. I want to do fun stuff. And knowing what you're aiming for gives me a huge toolbox to play with. There's also
Yes.
some studies that show that in times of plague, foot fetishes go up. So
Plague.
yes, any kind of sexually transmitted disease, plague, pandemic of any kind, people tend to go more with foot fetishes because you're not direct to the
It's
genitals, you're
safer.
not fluid exchanging, and we have
Right.
this throughout history. This goes back hundreds of years. We can
Oh,
see evidence
wow.
of this. Yeah.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. And it makes sense because, like, there's not going to be, like you said, any fluid exchange. So it's safer. You can have a mask on and still, like, engage
Yeah.
in foot play, right? And the feet are so sensitive. And when you think about reflexology and like foot massage with reflexology, it connects to every other part of your body, like all of your organs, etc. And so do the ears, which you mentioned earlier.
The ears also
um,
get real high up there on the fetish list. Yeah.
Yes, and then the hands too, like reflexology of the hands. And I had another person on the show. Her name was Hanny Chang, and she mapped the vagina and the vulva, and she does reflexology of the pussy, basically, which I was fascinated by. I was like, how did you map it? And she mapped it with looking at the different. I don't know. I can't even explain it because that's her thing. But
I
there
personally hope it was a very hands-on process.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was, but it's just super fascinating looking at like the different chakras and where they align and where they pass through and all of that. And so that was a super interesting podcast too, and I will definitely link that in the show notes today. I want to talk about, and we already sort of covered it a little bit, how does kink allow us to tap into our personal power? So not just as a dominatrix, but then as a submissive as well. If you've ever wished sex could feel more connected, more intense, or honestly just more fun, you need to check out Shameless Care. They're a telemedicine company built entirely around sexual health, real doctors, real prescriptions, and products that actually work. Like Shameless Chemistry, their oxytocin plus tadalafil blend that deepens connection and boosts arousal. Or Shamelessly Aroused, a topical cream with the active ingredient found in men's ED medication, increasing blood flow exactly where it counts. Every order includes a short video introduction from your doctor, transparent pricing, and no subscriptions ever. Just real, sex-positive healthcare that delivers results. Because you're a Please Me listener, you can use coupon code PLEASEME for $15 off your order of any product on the Shameless Care website. Use the code PLEASEME, that's PLEASEME, at checkout to claim your $15 off. Again, that's shamelesscare.com, code PLEASEME. Because great sex shouldn't be complicated. It should be shameless. This episode is sponsored by Shameless Care.
So I have this belief that I move forward on. I have a number of beliefs. They're strong theories. I don't have evidence for them because, to be entirely honest, science does not study this as thoroughly as they think they do. My belief is that because in society, in most societies, not all, most, we have compartmentalized the bedroom. We've blocked it off. It's not going to affect your relationships with your family. In theory, it shouldn't affect your job. It shouldn't affect your online presence usually, unless you do something like I do. That, yeah, that structured space allows for a lot of experimentation, dealing with what your drives, your personal motivations are, your ethics, how you want to be seen and see other people in the world, how you respond to concepts of consent. All of those questions become things that get experimented with in the bedroom, and kink is just a broader way to do that. We just do more of it, and because you get that chance to really kind of fully inform yourself of what it is you think is important in the world in that safe space, you then get to transfer it out and get to control how you transfer it out. So the real basics, the simple part of it is, look, if you come, you're happier. You feel more in control of your life. You feel more empowered. If you know what makes you come, you are happier.
100%.
And you can control your pleasure. Lots of things in this world are going to control your pain. Lots of things are going to happen to you or at you, and you're not necessarily going to have a lot of choice about that. But being able to control your pleasure is how you know that you're an autonomous person.
It's very empowering. Absolutely. 100%.
This is where you get the kind of secret of a dominatrix, because I currently am in a corset. I'm regularly in a corset. We've talked about how you're in your home office and I'm in my home office. Mine's just a and as somebody in a corset, I can't super bend over right now. It's not the most graceful.
Did something fall down?
My tablet is unplugged. And it's
okay, do you need to fix it? Okay, go for it.
No, because this is the secret of a dominatrix. I can pick up just about anything with
your feet.
So there you go. I just worked that all the way up here with my toes, and now trying to find the hole to plug it in. It's here. I'll find it. There we go.
There we go. So next question for you. I'm excited to explore this one. Why do you say that kink is a safe place to explore unsafe thoughts and desires? I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. For the full episode, over an hour long, join me on Patreon. Every Friday, we'll explore the world of kink, BDSM, and power exchange with amazing guests who are professionals in the community. On Patreon, you'll get the entire episodes of my Kink series, including all the juicy insights and intimate conversations we can't fit in the free version. For just $10 a month, you'll also receive exclusive content, including photos and behind-the-scenes material from dominatrixes and other kink experts. Don't miss a single episode of this BDSM and kink exploration series. Join today and take your curiosity to the next level. If you're feeling disconnected from your body, struggling with intimacy, or facing a sexual health condition, you're not alone. There is no shame in what you're experiencing, and you don't have to figure it out on your own. But the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to reclaim your confidence, pleasure, and connection. That's why I offer a free 15-minute discovery call to explore what's going on and whether working together is the right next step. Spots fill quickly, so don't wait. The link is in the show notes. Grab your time now.
Are you looking for a sexy date? Look no further than SDC.com. SDC.com is the premier ethically non-monogamous website that is worldwide. It also hosts a wealth of information on sexuality and sexual health, and I host a free live webinar monthly on the site. You can use code 37340 for a free trial membership on me, and be sure to reach out on the site and say hello.